Stopping at the ruins of a Roman theater called an Odeon, we were given an unexpected addition to our recording when an ancient Roman nail, like that used in crucifixions, was found on the surface near the arena. In Nazareth, a first-century house with a rolling stone tomb carved under it provided valuable dated samples. Within the burial niches, a clear adhesive tape was pressed against the walls to carefully lift microscopic evidence. Of the fiber, as viewed in this sample from cloth 4, which then allows the heat of the body to mildly scorch the cellulose of the fiber, creating the image. This is a fiber from the shroud which has been coated with blood. It is not an image fiber. This is a fiber from cloth 4, also coated like the shroud fiber, and also not part of the image. It will take many years to truly understand all the conditions which affected our cloth 4, but we do know that it is a contact process which also involves vapor from the body. Next to the image of the legs, the side of the leg and foot can also be seen. The cloth, when wrapped around the mannequin, also formed this image, showing that contact is essential. The face of the shroud seems to indicate something else, coins over the eyes. Here a coin minted by Pontius Pilate is compared to an enhanced area of the eye. The coin seems to be distinguishable. We took coins from Pilate, like this one from Harold Nelson, director of the Corpus Christi Holy Shroud Memorial in Texas, and this Pilate coin from Roger Apple, executive director of the Albany Center for the Turin Shroud in New York, and placed one over an eye during each image test, leaving one eye free for comparison. On cloth 4, a smudge marked off by black brackets was evident in the fibers. While the detail of the coin was not picked up, it is an important fact that a transfer can take place. When the fibers were checked under the microscope, the scorching of the cellulose did not take on the yellow to light brown coloration caused by the body, but rather a green-gray of the bronze coin. An even greater magnification showed that, again, the image was not caused by the coating of the fibers, but a change within the cellulose. A slight amount of metallic residue was present. During future testing on the shroud, the final identification of coins over the eyes could be determined if the scientists look for both the green-gray image coloration and the metallic residue. Our final and most important discovery is the cause of the fading of the shroud's image. It has been suspected for many years that the image is fading, but why? On the left is a photo of the face of the shroud taken in 1931. On the right, a photo taken in 1978. In 47 years, the quality of the image has been reduced by almost half. The image is not fading in the way that color fades. The image is caused by the dehydration of the cellulose of the fibers. The deterioration of materials also causes dehydration. When the dehydration of the non-image fibers reaches the level of that in image fibers, the image will no longer be visible or retrievable. The most severe destruction of the image has been caused by the manner in which the shroud was displayed during early expositions, outdoors and not shielded from the sun. Ultraviolet light is the most damaging form of light on any material. In the case of cloth, it attacks the very structure of the cellulose. On the shroud, this is where the image resides. Deterioration accelerates toward a rapid end. If conservation measures are not enacted soon, the image on the shroud will not last another 25 years. If the image on the Shroud of Turin can be traced to a natural mechanism in the tomb, does that destroy evidence for the resurrection of Christ? The Gospels indicate that the burial of Christ was rushed. The temperature required from the body to scorch the cellulose of the fibres shows that the body had to have been buried in extreme haste. The complaint by some that Christ was not really dead, but revived later by his disciples, is not tenable, since no one can withstand the high temperature reached, which would cause an image and still live. Nor would the high acid condition of the skin be found on a living person. Only a human body and its characteristic cooling rate can maintain the types of temperatures required to produce an image on linen. Other materials, as suggested in the hot statue theory, will either hold heat too long and burn the cloth, or drop heat too quickly and produce nothing. The Shroud of Turin, as observed in microscopic samples, in accord with our image formation, shows all the signs of death. It is truly a burial cloth. Chemicals found in abundance on the cloth, in conjunction with heat and the types of acids known to be released in traumatic death, clearly indicate that a corpse had been wrapped in the cloth. However, there are no signs of human decomposition. The body had left the shroud. When death occurs with high body temperature, decomposition will set in rapidly. If the body remained in the cloth for a period beyond 3 days, the decay of the body would have defaced the cloth and destroyed any image which might have formed. In the New Testament account of the raising of Lazarus, Christ arrived late and Lazarus had been buried 4 days. The people objected when Christ ordered the tomb to be opened because the body had already begun to decay. The body which had been wrapped in the Shroud of Turin ceased contact with that cloth in 3 days. If the image can be formed naturally, why aren't more in existence? The climate of Palestine does not preserve ancient textiles. Bodies are generally buried cold and have been washed, thereby removing the acids from the skin surface and cooling the body, both essentials in image formation. Dead bodies usually stay in their shrouds, and the body's decomposition not only defaces the cloth, but contributes to its deterioration. Many people were crucified in first-century Palestine. Couldn't the man on the Shroud of Turin be someone else? Most victims of crucifixion were cast into earthen graves rather than buried in limestone tombs, and they were not permitted shrouds, especially cloth the quality of the Shroud of Turin. Even if they were allowed shrouds, the earthen fill of the grave would not have provided the correct environment, both in contact and substance, to form an image. While those crucified were not allowed to remain on the cross through the Sabbath, most hung in full view for days as a grim warning. This prolonged exposure would have allowed the body to cool, destroying the prime cause of image formation. Myrrh and aloes found on the shroud would not be common in the burial of a criminal. The marks of crucifixion on the man of the shroud are highly significant for identification, since the man was crowned with thorns. This was a taunt due to the accusations brought against Christ in a particular case. The savage scourging preceded this execution only because it was originally meant to appease the crowd to prevent his death, but it did not. The lance wound in the side of the chest was to test if death had occurred, not to induce it. Crucifixion, if ended prematurely, was caused by the breaking of the legs, which caused asphyxia, which made the lance thrust unnecessary. And lastly, none of the bones of the man on the shroud were broken. The circumstances of death were unusual due to the trauma endured before crucifixion. The objection could be raised that the disciples stole the body of Christ to give the appearance that he had risen. If they had, Why did the cloth with its image remain? Why didn't they dispose of the cloth along with the body? Any attempts to use the shroud among the Jews as evidence would have been a violation of the laws concerning objects which had come in contact with the dead. Such an abhorrence would have been intolerable. Without the scientific knowledge we now possess, the shroud would have proved nothing. No record of its use or attempted use among the Jews by the disciples for either proof of Christ's existence or his resurrection. There could be no motive nor possible use for the shroud in the formation of a first-century hoax. There is no disagreement with the Gospels, nor is the belief in the resurrection of Christ harmed. Evidence clearly shows that the body left the shroud in 3 days. The image is of death, because after his resurrection he wanted us to remember him in this way, his death for us because of his love for us. The Shroud of Turin truly is the burial cloth of Christ. We have been given an unparalleled privilege of looking upon the face of God.
Every mark, soil, image and stain on the shroud is in perfect agreement with all the 4 Gospels.